Good evening. Can you see me? Hello, Kazakhstan. Salut. Hello, mister. I like it. Oh, some Chinese there. Wow. Ni hao. Cool. We have a lot of different people here. We even have some strange guy from Thailand. Wow. So, hello, Kazakhstan. Hello, Astana. Hello, my beautiful Almaty. Okay. And where else are people from here? So we have people from Almaty, I know, from Astana. What about Karaganda? Anybody from Karaganda here? I love Karaganda. Town of Intelligentsia. Shymkent. Teopliuk. Uralsk. Beautiful. You have a beautiful cathedral. You have a Dom Pugacheva, yeah, in Uralsk. Wow, Moscow, Taraz, Uskaman, Petropavlovsk, Kurchatov. Kurchatov is where you made the nuclear bomb, yeah? Atomic bomb. Is that right? Kurchatov, hi. Town of scientists. Tariq Ogan, most important, because my boss isn't Tariq Ogan, so a lot of respect for Tariq Ogan. Uskamanogorsk, Uskaman, Didiman Gostinitsa, the great Irtish Reka. Okay, Akhtar. Semi, Dostoevsky, Abai, the great Abai. Yeah, okay. So I miss you, Kazakhstan. As you know, I'm here in, how long are you in Kazakhstan? Please, where's your English? How long have I been in Kazakhstan? A few years. But actually now I'm, as you know, I'm stuck in sunny Tashkent. Actually, not so sunny. The last 2 days, it's been raining here, like something like the tropics, a lot of rain, and not so warm. But anyway, things are getting better, I think, in Kazakhstan, and here they're starting to make the quarantine easier. And I heard that on the 11th of May, Air Astana is going to start flying domestic flights again. So things are starting to wake up in Kazakhstan. Okay, let's continue. So as you can see, this is the second part of our introduction, or I don't know, lesson, masterclass, whatever you want to call it. This is our second part to reading. And we're not doing everything. The idea is just to give you some ideas, some fundamentals, and 1 or 2 tips, and to help you to continue to make progress in your study of IELTS reading. So let's kick off. If I can work this. Okay. And just if you have any questions, or any problems, or even questions, please write in the chat box. I might not see your questions, but somebody else may, one of the helpers. But if you have a problem with the sound or anything else, just let me know, or if I disappear. So, you want to be a winner. 5,000 tenge. It's huge. So how are you going to win 5,000 tenge? Because nobody won 5,000 tenge yesterday. What are you going to do? You're going to pay careful attention today, and at the end, there will be a little quiz. And if you get all the questions right, you can win 5,000 tenge. Wow. Actually, in England, when they have the lottery, if nobody wins 1 week, the next week, they add all the money from the last week and that week together. So maybe, who knows, maybe our boss is generous. Maybe she will give you the 5,000 from yesterday that wasn't won, as well as the 5,000 from today. Who knows? But I don't think so. And you don't have to get all the questions right. If you get 70% of the questions right, that's 7 answers correct, I promise you, I will give you a box of chocolates from Uzbekistan if you come to Tashkent tomorrow. Okay, so let's continue. Bonsoir, Madame, Mademoiselle Didara Aserbekova. Okay, sounds good. Right, let me get this chat box away because I can't see my own screen. Where is it? Let me put it in the corner. So, just a little review. What are the different ways of reading? Good people? 5 seconds, quickly. The different ways of reading in real life. Too slow. Ah, no, there's some answers. There we go. So yeah, skimming or reading for gist, scanning, and reading in detail. Yeah, if we're reading a novel or we're reading some instructions, maybe we read in detail if it's something very important to us. Right, so that's the first. So you can see all that. That's not difficult. So let's continue. Now, just one little thing. What we do here, as I mentioned yesterday, or in your lessons, is not enough. You need also to focus on reading outside of IELTS. And my advice, we probably won't have time today to do this, but if we do, we'll look at this. My advice is read a news site like the BBC. There are other news sites like the New York Times or the Guardian newspaper. The BBC is good because it has, sections on technology, on science, on educate, on art, culture, entertainment. And these are the kind of articles that you see in the IELTS reading test or in the listening. And there's a lot of good information on this website that can help you with ideas for your writing task too. So my advice is to read just a few minutes every day, 1 or 2 articles from the BBC, but let's not talk about that now. So some of the other skills that we looked at yesterday that are specific to IELTS are predicting. This is what we do before we read the text, when we read the questions. Paraphrasing, before reading. Not panicking, reading before reading and during the reading. Visualizing before we read and while we read. And time management. Again, time management and not panicking are related, yeah? If you know that you have enough time, then you will spend a little bit of time skimming the text, reading the questions, thinking about the questions before you start reading the text. So these are very important skills to maximize your score in reading. So I gave you a little homework yesterday. I'll give you just a minute now to check these answers. Of course, if you want, you can just take a screenshot or a picture to check the answers. That might be easier. I'll just give you 40 seconds to do that, okay? I'll have a glass of water. It was easy. Good. I'm glad somebody found it easy. Just remember one thing. Some of you are at a higher level with your English, and sometimes you can find the answers very easily to an IELTS practice paper or something that we're doing now. But the idea is not to find the answers in these sessions. The idea is to understand how to find the answers, because you will have a more difficult question. And when you have a more difficult question, if you really understand how to do a question, then it will be easier. So don't just look for the answers in the simpler questions. Think about how you do it. So I haven't got time to look at all of this, but what I'm going to do is just focus on 2 things from the true, false, or not given, or the yes, no, not given. By the way, one very important thing. we mentioned just today, true, false, not given. Sometimes they call it yes, no, not given. Or sometimes, as you saw in this example, it's agree. I think it was this, yeah, this one. Agree with the writer's opinion, disagree with the writer's opinion, or opinion not given. So be very careful that you understand, because this is a little bit different, this idea of agreeing with the writer. Let's look at that, the two of the answers, just two. So the answer to one question here, the principal promotional effort of the genetic engineering industry is to distract us from this question. The answer was yes, this agrees with the writer's opinion. Now, there is no word, if you look here, I've said that the writer doesn't use a phrase like I believe or I think. So how do you know that this is the writer's opinion? I wrote sweet potato, was it correct? Okay, before we continue, let me just go back to that one question. The answer was sweet potato yields. You will probably, in an IELTS test, not get a point for that answer if you wrote sweet potato, because you had a choice of 1, 2, or 3 words. Those 3 words, sweet potato yields, fitted in the gap. So that's why you have to be very careful when checking the answer. If it allows for 3 words and you wrote 2 words, look at the word before the 2 words or look at the word after the 2 words. If that word also fits, then put it in. Okay, so the reason that this is the writer's opinion is because the writer here says the principal promotional effort is blah, 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 is to distract us from the question. The writer is very direct. The writer does not say, some people say, or this scientist or this person says. The writer just says this. He or she is not quoting somebody else. So it is the writer's opinion. You can feel it from the attitude. This is a direct statement. It is his or her opinion. So that's, be very careful with that. Now, the next one is not the writer's opinion because the writer says, now we are told. That means that somebody else has this opinion. So these are the kind of phrases or attitudes you need to look at to see if it's yes, the writer's opinion, or no, not the writer's opinion in a true, false, not given writer's opinion question. So just remember, true, false, not given is different. Sometimes true, false, not given, sometimes yes, no, not given, or sometimes does this disagree with the writer's opinion? Does it not agree with the writer's opinion? Or is the opinion not, information about this not given? So let's continue to today's IELTS questions. So we are going to look today at first sentence completion. This is not a gap fill. A gap fill is when you put words inside, or you add a word, a sentence, or you add a word at the end, 2 words, or add a word at the beginning. But here you complete the whole sentence with several words. We'll look at that now. So when I was in school, our history was extremely boring. British history can be very boring because you don't always study about wars and different countries and exotic places. In England, we also study about something called the Industrial Revolution. Sorry, it wasn't mentioned how many words to use. Well, I'm very sorry for that. It was 1 to 3, so that was probably my mistake for not putting it there. So anyway, don't worry. So, and the Industrial Revolution was a period from the 18th century, 1750 or something like that, when there were many inventions that led to the industrialization of processes, factories for making things that used to be made in people's homes. And two of the big people, the big players, the big engineers in the Industrial Revolution were these two people, Thomas Telford and Alexander, I think, Bernard Brunel. No, Brunel, okay? So, who were these people? There you can see a picture of Brunel, and here you have a picture of Thomas Telford, black and white, no photographs, in the 18th century. And they invented many things, canals, they designed canals, railways. Both of them had one thing in common. Both of them designed bridges which were built and still exist in Britain today. And one of those bridges was this one here. It's in Bristol, and we're going to read about that in a moment, designed by Brunel. And the other bridge is here, and that was designed by Thomas Telford, and it's called the Menai, like men, Menai Bridge. And this bridge is today still in Wales, in the UK. And both of these bridges have something in common. They are both suspension bridges. Now, why do you think they're called suspension bridges? Well done. Aha. Somebody has written Isambard, King of Brunel. Isambard, not like Alexander, Isambard. Okay, the Bristol Suspension Bridge and the Menai Straits suspension bridge, the Menai Bridge. Can anybody tell us what a suspension bridge is? Why is it called suspension? If you look here over the water, can you see my arrow? Exactly. Sana tells us that it's hanging. It's in English, the word suspension means hanging. There is nothing underneath. It's supported like this. And so as you see, over the water, there is no stone supports. So let's have a look now at sentence completion. So this is what a sentence completion task would look like. Now, just a little tip. You might have noticed that I'm talking quite a lot about things which are not in the test, like suspension bridges. These kind of lessons that you have with your teachers in Kazakhstan or wherever are very good opportunities to learn new words. So if I were you, for example, now, and I didn't know the word suspension or suspension bridge, I would write that down. Very good opportunities to learn new words. So this is what you would do in a matching task. You would match one of these, the beginning of a sentence here, with the end of a sentence here. Now, it's without a technique, I personally think this is one of the hardest IELTS tasks. This one is not so difficult. It's made easier for you, but generally, if you get this in paper 2 or paper 3 of the reading, these can be quite difficult. So it's good to have a technique that helps you to think about what you're doing when you try and match the tasks, gives you something to focus on. So what can we do to match these sentences? Well, one thing that is very common, it's not always, but very common in sentence matching tasks is an idea of cause and effect. So in A, one of these sentences might be a cause and the answer will be the effect. Or maybe the effect is here and the cause is here. And just to remind you what cause and effect is, this is the cause, junk food, eating too much junk food or eating too much food. And what do you think is the effect? Would anybody like to tell us? Americano, America life, yeah? Obesity, yeah. Sorry, I don't, if I offended any Americans here today. So, cause is eating too much. The effect is getting fat or becoming obese or bad mood if it's junk food because of all the chemicals and salt and sugar. So that's idea can be used by you while you are preparing for a sentence completion. Do you remember from yesterday? Don't panic. Time management means don't start reading the text until you have played with the question. And how are you going to play with this question? Well, you're going to play a little game in your head, of course, or on the paper in the question paper, and try and match the sentences even before you read the text. That's called predicting, as you remember. But to help you to do that, you first of all have a look and see if any of these first sentences are causes. So if they are causes, then you would expect them to be followed by an effect. Which of these sentences do you think would be followed by an effect? 2, 4, 6, 2, 6, 4, 2, 4. Okay, this is good. All even numbers. And the answer is, as a lot of you rightly said, was 2, scandal about the results of the first competition, and funding problems. Because when you have funding problems or money problems, funding means money, it means that you can't do something. So the problem is not enough money. The cause, the effect is you can't do something. You can't buy something, for example. And 2, there was a scandal, a big problem in the results of the first competition, which led to something else. So when you know that, it makes it easier to look for the answers in the second part. So look at the sentence endings now. Again, don't try and find the answers yet. See if you can find which of these is an effect. So we've looked at 2 causes. Which of these are an effect? Getting a lot of G's there, and some other ones, some C's, some H's, some blah, blah, blahs, G's. So it looks like G would have to be correct, yeah? Because you're very clever, and a lot of you said G. So, and a lot of you said C, and as you correctly said, the answer was C and G. So if you were to go back here, and the word that indicates that this is an effect is led to. That's an effect word. Something leads to something, and meant that because of something happened. It meant that this happened. So they are causes. So even without looking at the question, the text, you could probably already guess the answer. So 2 and 4 go with C and G. Scandal about the results of the first competition. What do you think the answer is? Scandal about the results of the first competition. Yep, probably led to a contest. to design the bridge? Maybe. Okay, well, we're going to look at that now. So let's just look at this. Another thing that you can do with all of these sentence endings is to turn them into questions. When you have a question, your brain automatically looks for an answer and looks for the answer to that exact question. So this is another useful technique. Turn the sentence ending into a question. So what would be the question word for A? What do you think would be the question word for A? I'm having trouble with my chat box, so I can't see you. 1 second. Nope. Yeah, we're looking for a question word. We're not looking for a thing yet. What, which, where? Yeah, well, I would say A looks at only parts of the bridge, not everything. So when you have parts of something in a question, the answer is often which. Which were the only parts of the bridge completed? What about B? Yep, a civil engineer is a person, so the question is obviously who. And you couldn't really have how many with anything here. If you try and put how many into any of these sentences, it won't fit. So the rest of them are all what? So by asking yourself these questions, you already know what kind of answer you're looking for. B is obviously the most easiest one, because who was an important civil engineer means you need a person in your answer. Which, you need a choice of something, a part of something. And the other questions also might help you to think about the options. So let's have a look at the options now. And I've kept the question words in here. And yeah, there are more techniques, but these are just two things that I'm looking at today with you. The main thing is to do something to exercise your brain before you start trying to do this. So you're predicting what the answers are before you even look at the text. And can you do that now? Can you predict what the answers are using the logic of these questions and the first parts of the sentences? I'll give you about 90 seconds to do this, okay? Okay, I think that's enough time, yeah? That was so let me see if I have the answers for you. You seem to have, yep, so a lot of you seem to be getting it. Just 1 second. Where is he? I'm not going to give you the answers now. I think I'm going to let you read the text first. Okay, so you're going to have to wait. Now, just remember, time management, not panicking. So you know that these are 7 questions, and 7 questions give you 7 points. And 7 points is quite a lot. So, you know, if you have 40 questions in the reading task, 7 is a good number. So you probably give yourself, you know, a number of minutes to do this whole task. Maybe, for example, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 9 minutes. It depends. You know, if it's the first reading task, which is easier, you'll give yourself less. If it's the third, more. The 7 points is 7 points. So obviously, we've spent a lot of time doing this because I'm explaining this. But when you do this prediction work would only take, you know, a short amount of time. You know, a couple of minutes or so. Right, now let's go to the reading. Now, before we go to the reading, what you see here is only one paragraph, one section of the text that has the answers in. So what is the skill that you need before to find the right section? What's the skill that you need? You need to scan, yeah. Skimming, maybe I would say scanning. And to scan, you would take something that is new to this set of questions, and it's definitely going to be in the text. For example, I would use Thomas Telford because you don't know this, but the article, the writing task, is actually about Brunel. So Thomas Telford is only in this set of questions. So I would use his name to find the paragraph that you want. So you find that paragraph or that section for the first question, and then you start reading in detail. Some of you will skim if you're very good, and most of us will read in detail to find the answer. So here you have the paragraph with all the answers. I'm going to give you another minute and a half to try and do this. And you will need this to help you. So match these using the paragraph. Okay, obviously we can't spend forever on this, so I'm going to just give you the answers now. Okay, there we go. You can compare with your answers. Obviously, the easy one was number 1. Thomas Telford, the person, was an important civil engineer. We already said that 2 and 4 went with G and C because they were causes and effects. And there were other things, yeah, maybe it was a place. You know, the Clifton Suspension Bridge is a symbol of Bristol. So anyway, we can't really spend any more time on that, but just to let you know, this was a task prepared for IELTS, and it's not from an IELTS paper. I would say this is quite an easy task. This would definitely be in paper 1. They can be much more difficult than this. That's why I think you definitely need this technique of some kind of analysis. So prediction can be used, prediction can be made using causes, effects, asking questions about the second part. And let's move on. All right. Looking at the time now. So let's look at multiple choice. Now, multiple choice is something that everybody knows, because whatever culture or whatever language we study in school, we all learn about multiple choice. So there's no need to talk about that now. Yeah, it means there is a question or a statement, and you have to find an A, B, C, or D. One of these is the answer to that question or statement. We all know that. Just one thing to remind, one thing that you might not know, or many of you may know, is in tests like IELTS, you always get a few red herrings. Now, does anybody know what a red herring is? Okay, what's a red herring? Okay, I've actually put the answer there for you already. So let's move on. So a red herring is a word or a statement or an idea that's put in a text to deliberately mislead you. So it looks like it might be the answer. It looks very similar to the answer. And you give that red herring as the answer, and you don't get a point because you are wrong. And the main red herring in an IELTS, what are we doing? Reading test, in a reading paper, is to use a word that's in the question and put that in the paragraph. So you see the word in the question, you see the word in the paragraph, and you say, ah, that's the answer. Remember from yesterday, you are not looking for words. That's why I didn't put keywords as a reading skill. It is a reading skill, but what we are looking for are key ideas. So when you are preparing your question, you rephrase the main words in the question to get the idea in your head, and you look for that idea, not for that word. So that's what you often get in multiple choice. Red herrings. So this is the paper we're going to look at for a few minutes to help us see how we can improve our technique for multiple choice questions. And the title of the paper is The Land of the Rising Sun. Now, I took this from an old IELTS paper that I found from quite a few years ago. I like the look of the title. And remember, the first thing you do in any reading task is you don't panic. You remember that you have time, and you spend just a few seconds reading the title and preparing your brain for the text. So when you see this title, what do you think this text might be about? Land of the Rising Sun. What words and ideas are in this title? Japan. Well done. Well done. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Stop. Somebody wrote maths. Stop. That's not good, because I don't see, yes, but there is. Yeah, exactly. You didn't look at the paper, you looked at the word sum. My mistake. So the word sum is about counting. So it could be about maths. So I don't want you to look at the paper yet, which uses the word maths. But looking at the title, yeah, you could say, you could guess that this might be about maths, because it's a play on words, igra na slov, or something like that. So it's a play on words, because we know the phrase rising sun is about Japan. And then we see the word rising sun, we think, Japan and numbers. Japanese people are very good at maths, so that's maybe what this is about. Right, so you've done that. That took you about 8 or 10 or 12 seconds, normally, in the paper. And then you start looking at the questions. But before you look at the questions, you might want to do a skim read. This is what we suggested just today. For some people it works. For other people, it doesn't. So I'm going to give you exactly 1 minute to skim read that text, read the first and the last sentences in each paragraph, or read the verbs, the nouns, the verbs and the nouns, and see if you can get any ideas in 1 minute. Okay, go. Okay, so that's about a minute, yeah. And the idea is not to read the first 2 paragraphs in detail. The idea is to try and read as much of the text as possible by skimming it. Remember skimming, like skimmed milk or skimming stones? Just the surface, to read as much of the text as possible and take out some ideas. So what ideas? School teaching, education, success, maths teaching. It's about school lessons, education system, reasons why Japan is the best in maths, good. Traditional teaching, education, okay, lessons, right. So you might, ways of teaching, you might, by doing the skim read, actually find a paragraph that has an idea in it. And when you remember, and when you're doing the questions, you remember which paragraph has this idea in. So it can be useful. Anyway, let's move on. That's just something you might want to do in IELTS, do a quick skim read of the text. So let's look at the questions now. The first thing you always do is look at the questions. And just before we look at the questions, I've mentioned one problem that you have in multiple choice. That is, there are red herrings to deceive you. But something good, a good technique that I think most of you will know for doing multiple choice is this. Can anybody tell us what this technique is? Shooting. Shoot the teacher, yeah? Shoot the examiner and get the answers. Crime and actor scanning, random shot. Terminate. Ah, perfect. See, Jasultan, fantastic. I'll be back, yeah, for another IELTS test if you don't get the right score. Yeah. Okay, terminate, exactly. So terminate the wrong answers. So there we go. Terminate or eliminate. Terminate and eliminate are the same. You eliminate the wrong answer. So process of elimination. What you do is, if you can't find the answer you want, let's imagine the answer is C, but you can't see it. You find the ones which are not the correct answers. You see that A is not correct, you cross it out. You see that B is not correct, you cross it out. And you see that D is not correct, you cross it out, and you're left with C. And then you try and understand why C is the right answer. So that's a very important skill. Right, here we go. These are the multiple choice questions or statements. Now, I'm going to use a word for this here. Can you see where my arrow is? I'm going to call that the stem. The stem, that's the first part of, or the main part. It's the question or the statement that you're looking to match with one of these. So that's the stem, and these are the options. Incidentally, in Russian, a lot of you use this word variante. And in English, you say variance. Actually, variance is not really a direct translation of variante. So I would say options, okay? Or choices. Good. You have 4 choices or 4 options, okay? So what are you going to do before you start reading the text? Right. There we go. Before looking at the options, you analyze this. So don't even look at this, just look at this. So how can we analyze the stem? We can ask ourselves a question, like we did with the matching tasks. Is this statement, or question, it's a statement, is it a reason or a consequence? Maybe it's a reason or consequence. Then we know that if it's a reason, we're looking for a consequence. Cause and effect. Yeah, reason, consequence, same as cause and effect. So if there is a reason here, we need to look for something which is a consequence of that reason, or consequence, a reason here. Another thing that I do is, another thing is to look, what kind of information are we looking for? Are we looking for a number? Read the statement carefully. It might be asking us to look for a number. And also, remember yesterday when we were doing gap fill, we try and understand what kind of information is it good or bad? Is it positive and negative? If we feel that this is about something bad, something negative, then we need to find something negative in our options. Or maybe it's something positive and we're looking for something positive in our options. So you analyze the sentence and don't just look at the words, you think about the idea of the stem. What about the options? You can do the same. Reason, consequence. Is it a number? Is it positive, negative? And some other things. What other things can we look at? Okay. Sometimes one or two things, A and B, or B and C, or B and D, might be very similar. Maybe 3 things are very similar. Often, when 2 or 3 things are very similar, one of them is the answer. And you have to see the difference. Or, if 2 things are similar and we see that one of them is just not possible at all, it's totally different from the stem, then the other thing which is similar is probably also not possible. So these are the things you're looking for. Are these 2 things similar? For example, students in Japan are very clever. Students in Japan are very hardworking. You know, there's something similar there. Sometimes it's just really stupid. It's just not possible. It can't be the answer. You know, for example, people in Norway are very. Norway is a very wealthy country because it has the highest population in the world. Okay, you know that Norway doesn't have the highest population in the world. You immediately know this is really stupid. It's not the answer. And can you predict the answer because it's actually logical and makes sense? So before we move on, I would like you to do that. Is there anything in 10 that you think is logical for maths textbooks in Japanese schools, in A, B, C, and D? Is anything you think is really a little bit stupid that just wouldn't be there? Would anybody like to comment? I'm not looking for answers. I'm not looking for the answers B, C, D, E, F. I don't care about answers. I care about how you do this. So give me a reason. Like somebody says illogical. Yeah, what is illogical? D is stupid. I also think D is stupid because Japanese teachers are very respectful of their culture, and I don't think that Japanese teachers would say, these maths books are not good here. I agree here. C, stupid. Written to be used in conjunction with TV programs. Yeah. It does sound a little bit crazy, but then Japan can be a crazy country in some ways. If you ever read Japanese literature, okay, good. So what you're doing here is, this is not important whether you get the answer. The main thing is you're starting to think and exercise your brain. So you're making it easier to look for something. By predicting, you're looking for something in the text, and it makes it easy to recognize it when you see it. So these questions or ideas that I've given you are some of the questions you can ask yourself when analyzing the STEM and analyzing the options. Now, we don't have time to look at 11, 12, or 13, so let's go straight to an answer. Now, before we go to the paragraph, you need to find the paragraph that has your answer in it. And how do you find the paragraph that has your answer in it? What's the magic word? What's the skill that you need? Or two skills? Yeah, you need to scan, and before you scan, you need a word or an idea to scan for. And remember what we said? I personally don't like the phrase keywords. I prefer the phrase rephrase or paraphrase. So you look at this first, this here, the STEM, and you find a key word that you can either look for or the key ideas. So I would say maths textbooks. But just in case the STEM doesn't give you what you're looking for, have a look at the options as well. Maybe something about the cost of the books, maybe something about how it's written, or TV. But the problem is, if you look for ideas from the options, if they're not there, they're not there. But the STEM has to be there. So first look at the STEM and rephrase that. So imagine we've done that, and we have gone to here. Maths textbooks in Japanese schools are, and we found the answer to be in C because we actually found the word, the key word, textbook, yeah? So sometimes the word is the same. And we found, see, not just one time the word textbook, we found that the idea of textbooks is continuously discussed in this paragraph, yeah? Textbook. So we think this is definitely the paragraph that I want. Now we start reading in detail, okay? Or skimming if you're good, but for most of us, we read in detail to see if we can get the answer. So I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Process of elimination, or look for the logical answer. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, Kazakhstan, Russia, and everywhere else. By the way, I love Moscow. I haven't been to Moscow for many years, so I noticed somebody was in Moscow. So let's hope one day we meet in Moscow. Right. B. Everybody's saying B. Well, what made you say B? But somebody says A. Why do you say A? Would you like to explain why A? Are there any words here, key words that help you? Okay, stop. So let me just stop you there. Somebody says it's A, cheap for pupils to buy because inexpensive. Inexpensive is a red herring, exactly. So sometimes that's the problem. If you're looking for the word, you don't get it. You have to understand the whole meaning. So you saw the word inexpensive there, and you thought that the answer was maths textbooks in Japanese schools are cheap for pupils to buy. Let's see if it says that maths textbooks are cheap or inexpensive. It says they're inexpensive to produce. Exactly. Well done, people. But not to buy. So, red herring. Well done. So the main thing is when you think you have the answer, check the words in the stem, the idea in the stem with the idea in the paragraph. Read it slowly in detail. Cheap for pupils to buy. Okay, inexpensive. No. Inexpensive to produce. Cross out. Good. So that's the kind of thing you're trying to do. And the answer is, as you said, well set out and logically developed. Well set out, well organized, and logically developed. Good. And what about this second part of the stem? Adapted to the needs of the pupil. So very careful. There are two parts to this answer, well organized and adapted to the needs of the pupil. So you have to look at both sections. We only have well set out and logically organized. One teacher was particularly keen to introduce color and pictures into maths textbooks. He felt this would make them more accessible to pupils brought up on a cartoon culture. So the teacher adapted the books because he knew that Japanese children love anime. They love cartoons or cartoon culture. So it's all there. That is the answer. And if you wanted just to make sure, you could just check that this isn't here, and you can check that this isn't here, just to make sure that it's not, that you eliminate those answers. Right, let's go on to the next example. That was B, well done. Right, when a new maths topic is introduced, right, before you do that, what are you looking for? Something happens, so it's like almost like a consequence of this sentence. When a new maths topic is introduced, comma, it means something happens after this. Okay, that's analysis. Something happens after. I'm going to give you a minute and 20 seconds to find the answer. Okay. Yeah, I like this. Didara's trying to explain. She's not just giving the answer. So it's good, yeah? Think about why it's the answer. So I think a lot of you are getting something here. This was a little bit more difficult than the last one, I think, and it's a longer section. So the teacher explains the topic of the lesson slowly and with a lot of repetition and elaboration. Elaboration means to explain something, yeah, to add some details to explain it. So C, carefully and patiently explain to the students. Patiently because the teacher uses a lot of repetition, and slowly. These are all meanings of patient, yes? Slowly explaining, repetition. So that is example. And it even continues. Yeah, examples are given on the board. Questions from the textbook will work through. So actually, a good part of this paragraph explains the answer for C. Now, why did you write A? You wrote A probably because you saw the word on the board. But that's all it is. It's just a word. The teacher gives examples on the board, but A says students answer questions on the board. It doesn't say that students get up and answer questions on the board. It just says the teacher demonstrates on the board. So A is not possible. So A can be crossed out, eliminated. A was a red herring. It uses the words, but it doesn't give you the full idea. So be very careful. There you go. Answer is C. Bayekli, Dalsha. So 12. Another one, yeah? Just one more. You're good at this. So how do schools, so this is interesting. This is actually a question. How do schools deal with students who experience difficulties? Now, if you look at A, B, C, D, are there any answers that don't look at, please, stop. Don't look at the text yet. Are there any answers A, B, C, D which are just not logical or even stupid? Are there any crazy ideas in A, B, C, D? B is stupid. Exactly. What about C? They are forced to explain their slow progress. I'm so stupid. You have to tell the class why you're stupid, yeah? You're forced to explain your slow progress. C looks a little bit crazy. I would immediately cross out B and probably 90% cross out C. D, they're placed in a mixed ability class. Maybe. Okay, well, let's have a look. I'll give you just 40 seconds to do this. What is this? Triple A. You've got triple G in Kazakhstan. Now you have triple A. Yep. The answer is definitely because they give individual help at the end of lessons or after school. Yep. And let's see how you find that answer. Individual help at the end of a lesson or after school is necessary. And if you look, what is a synonym of help at the end of a lesson or after school? It's supplementary tuition. What does supplementary mean? So that's the key word. Supplementary is a synonym of extra. And extra is after school finishes. Easy peasy. Right, let's okay, I'm not going to say anything. Yeah, I'm just going to let you have fun with this one. We have a few seconds, so see if I'll give you 40 seconds to do 13. Okay. So we're getting a lot of answers there. So what's the answer? Hard work coupled with a focus on accuracy. C. Okay. Now, why was it not A? Some people said A. Again, red herring. Exactly, A is stupid. And you had the red herring, yeah? You look for the word, not the idea. That is the problem. You're looking for ideas in the stem and looking for a synonym of ideas. Sorry, not the stem. You're looking for synonyms of ideas in your options A, B, C, D in the paragraph. You're not looking for words. You need the full meaning. All you get in A is the word compulsory in the paragraph, but it has nothing to do with the answer, right? And it is stupid. Let's continue. We're actually running a little bit out of time now, so we're going to look at one more thing today. We've looked at multiple choice questions. We've looked at something else. Whatever, sentence completion. And now we're going to look at summaries. Just one more thing. Obviously, yesterday and today, we're just giving you some ideas. There are several more question types, but some of the question types that we haven't looked at are similar to the things we have looked at. So let's continue and look at summaries, okay? This is an example. Now, I didn't really prepare much material for this, so we're going to just go straight into the text. This is an example of a summary. A summary is not just a gap fill. A gap fill, we looked at yesterday, is about one small part of the text. A summary can be a summary of one paragraph. It can be a summary of 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs. Sometimes, not often, a summary it covers the whole text. But usually, in my experience, a summary covers 1 to 3 paragraphs. Okay, so how do you do a summary? Well, the summary is a summary of a text or part of a text, and you fill in the gaps in that summary. As you know, before you look for the words in a gap, you try and understand the context to help you look for the words, because you're not just looking for words, you're looking for ideas. So you need to understand the context here to understand the idea here. So that's prediction. And to predict, you need first to rephrase the idea here. But that's going to be quite difficult if you start trying to rephrase this and then rephrase this and rephrase this and rephrase this before you get to the text. You're going to have your head is going to be full of rephrased ideas. So that's probably not a good idea. So what I would do is read through the whole text just to get a feel for it and understand the main idea. So this is like skim reading, but you're just reading the question quickly. And when I read, I would actually say aloud the sounds here, either in my head or physically, if possible, like this. Thinking, visualizing, remember that word, visualizing what you're actually seeing as you read, yeah? So, for example, developed countries are countries which are rich countries, not non-developing countries or third world countries are the opposite. But we're talking about Scandinavia and Europe and America, developed countries. So you can have this idea in your head as you read. So researchers have found that in developed countries, happiness has not increased in line with In their opinion, Exactly. So what you're doing now is, in the text, when you read this and you say or you're starting to predict words, ideas like money and success that are logically going there. And like we did yesterday with the we can also predict the grammar type. So in their opinion, the fact that people have more money feeds their obsession with buying things. And this acts as a This theory is illustrated by the fact that there is a higher than average incidence of mental problems among who have materialistic concerns. Now think about the type of word. Mental problems is going to be about people. So we're talking about a certain type of person. So what type of person might that be? Mental problems among who have materialistic concerns. Yeah, it could be a certain age. There is also a general agreement that people would be happier if they concentrated on rather than their financial or social status. So we're looking at something which is the opposite to financial and social status. So people need to think about something else, not their money, not the status, maybe their mental health, or maybe something else. So, concentrated on love, on relationships, for example, morality, good, spirituality. So you're starting to predict by reading. Now, again, we spent like 3 minutes on this. You would spend just a few seconds slowly reading it, not panicking because you know you have time. You know you have 30, 40 seconds to do this. Slowly reading it and putting in those words as you read and thinking about the meaning. Looking at the context, you see that a certain part of the sentence agrees with another part. And so you know that this, or it's the opposite. For example, the last sentence was finance and social. So you're looking for something that's the opposite of that. So your brain is already starting to predict. Right, now, the next thing you need to do is find the section in the text where this is. And to do that, as you all know, you scan. And to scan, you need a key word or key idea to help you scan. And I think the best key idea is something at the beginning or the end, because then you know where it finishes or you know where it starts. Personally, I would go logically for the beginning. So what unusual word in this text is going to be just in one section, maybe, not in all sections? Well, what do you think? Developed countries. Yeah, look, happiness, yeah, maybe. But if you look at the title, I haven't showed you, the title of the text is about happiness. So happiness is going to be everywhere. But developed countries, and what are examples of developed countries? Rich countries or European countries or Scandinavian countries. So you're going to be looking for developed countries or one of these synonyms. Or researcher. And what's a synonym for researcher? What's a synonym for researcher? A scientist, a specialist, an academic, a magazine. So what we do is we go to the text. That's the whole text, the pursuit of happiness. So happiness is not a good word to scan for because happiness is everywhere. And remember, before you did all this, you'd have you would have just read the title and thought about the title to prepare you for the text. Maybe look at the graph. You see some countries here. And anyway, forget that. You're scanning the text to look for research or developed countries. And this is the section here. So from line 75 to about 110, that's where the answer is. The beginning was here. Now, what I found was research findings. So I thought, this could be the beginning. Let me start reading. And I started reading, and I found that research findings was not the only thing that was here. If you read along here, have found that in developed countries, happiness has not increased. And I go back to the paragraph, I read research findings is that in industrialized nations, industrialized is a synonym of developed. sorry, I should have underlined that. So industrialized, research findings, happiness, and then has not risen, has not increased. So I'm almost 100% sure that I found the beginning of this summary. So what I do now, knowing that I have a few minutes because I'm in control of my time management, I start reading very carefully the paragraph like this, and at the same time I follow it here. So I read research findings found in industrial nations, happiness has not risen. Researchers have found that in developed countries, happiness has not increased, in line with, and then I go back to the paragraph with average incomes. Now, this is quite a simple example. Not all examples will be this simple, but the method that I use is to find the beginning, start reading, find something else that's in the paragraph, in the question, and then get that keyword. Now, to check that you have the answer, you do two things. You ask yourself, does it logically fit in? Average incomes. Happiness has not increased with average incomes. Yeah, it fits logically. Yeah. Does it fit in grammatically? Here, after with, you need a noun or a noun phrase because increased is a verb. So here we have average incomes, a noun phrase. You have a noun and an adjective, so it fits in. So we write it down. We're 100% sure that's the answer, and we continue reading. A growing number of researchers are putting this down to consumerism. Stop. Are we still there? In their opinion, yep, the researchers, the fact that people have more money feeds their obsession with buying things, and this acts as, so did we find anything about obsession with buying things? So we look at the paragraph and we keep reading slowly, claiming that the desire for material goods, the desire for material goods is a synonym of obsession with buying things. So we keep reading, which is increased with, is a happiness suppressant. And this acts as a happiness suppressant. Verb plus a noun is needed. So we found that this is a noun phrase, happiness suppressant. Two words, it fits. And that's what you do with summary text. You just read slowly, looking at both the text and the answer, finding the synonyms like signposts to help you along. So I'm going to give you just for your own practice 2 minutes to finish this. Okay, 2 minutes. Right, I'm going to start looking at the chats to see how you're doing. Yep, looks good. Okay, I think we'll just move on. So I actually didn't write the answers down, and but I think you have those answers there, and I'm and I actually want to move on. So if anybody really wants the answers, let's look at number 10. What did you write for number 10? They concentrated on. What's the answer to 10? Somebody says personal development. Somebody says family. it says if you look here where my arrow says shift the emphasis. So you move from one thing to another thing. It means that you're focusing on one thing and then you're focusing on something else. So I think that fits with they concentrate or focus on their personal development rather than their financial or social status. Okay, right. We're gonna move on. Okay, you get the idea. That was just one long paragraph, but sometimes, as I said, this kind of review summary paragraph can be 2 or 3 paragraphs. Sometimes there is a big gap between, for example, the answer to 8 and the answer to 9. So you need to keep reading the paragraph, looking at the text in the question, trying to find that synonym idea in the paragraph that's in the question. There's another option, by the way, in an IELTS test. Sometimes you have the answers already. The answers to the questions for summary are given. You just have to match those answers. Okay, so let's move on. That's 3 things that we've looked at today. Right, I don't know why I got this. Let me get past that for some reason. Okay, that's just a reminder for you. Really, if you want to improve your reading skills generally, you can't improve your skills so much by just doing IELTS, tasks and reading about how to do IELTS in textbooks or going to IELTS lessons. You do need to read. Just as a person who wants to climb a mountain has to go to the gym and exercise, or run, to strengthen their muscles. You need to improve your reading skills. And one good way, as I've said, is to go to a website like one of these, the BBC or one of these other sites. And a very good way, what I recommend to a lot of people is to find 3 articles, not just news articles. It could be something from the science section or entertainment section, because these topics are very similar to IELTS topics. And to put those 3 articles in separate tabs, and then give yourself a time limit just to skim read the article and to pull out some very basic information. So in 1 or 2 minutes, you can find out who did what, where, when, and maybe why. Spend 1 or 2 minutes doing that, and then read the next article and do the same. Then read the next article and do the same. So in 6 or 7 minutes, you can read quickly 3 articles from a news site. And that's a very good way of training your brain to be able to skim read in English, just like you do in Russian or Kazakh. And then what you do is, when you've answered the question who, what, where, when, why, you go back to one article that's really interesting, if you have time, of course, and you read it again, but in detail, and you pull out 1 or 2 words while you're reading. And then after you finish reading, you try and understand those words from the context. And that's a way of learning new words as well. And if you have even more time, you can choose a grammar structure like the past perfect or the second conditional, and you can look for examples of that in the text. And it's another 3 or 4 minutes. So basically, from anywhere between 5 or 6 minutes to 15 minutes every day, you can use a news site to improve your reading skills, but also improve your knowledge. And for many of you, if you're young, you need more ideas to be able to do a writing task 2, or to do a speaking 3 well. And it doesn't take a lot of time. So psychologically, knowing that you're going to spend just 5 or 6 minutes reading 2 or 3 articles quickly means that you can do it every day. So that's some quick advice. Right, thank you very much for your attention. Sorry if I spoke a little bit too fast. Let's have a little bit of a quiz now. So quizzes mean money, okay? So I didn't, sorry, I put all the questions up immediately, the first 5 questions. I didn't separate them today. So I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to answer those 5 questions, 1.5 minutes, okay? Somebody asked if they can improve their reading by reading 24/7. It's good to read for a long time, for 1 hour, 2 hours. If you're reading a book, that's great. You get into the book. But of course, like with anything, your brain needs some breaks, some mental breaks. So it's good to do one thing, then do another, then come back. So be sensible. But doing a little bit every day is a great way to improve your reading. So there are the 5 questions. Let's look at the next one. So easy peasy, yeah? Who is this man? What is the name of this bridge? And where is it? Now, just to help you, because I'm very good and I'm very nice, so I'm going to help you here. This is the bridge that was designed by this man, okay? This bridge was designed by this man. Okay, and a couple more questions. I think that's enough time for that. Okay, let's go back. I think that's enough time. Right, I'll give you the answers, and let's see if anybody was able to get all of these correct. The last 2 days have seen the sunniest and hottest weather in Tashkent this month. I told you the answer at the beginning, if you were here at the beginning. True, false, not given. The answer is false. I told you. I said that the last 2 days it's been raining, and it hasn't been as hot as usual. So the answer was false. 2, what are the 3 ways a true, false, not given might be expressed in an exam? Actually, maybe there are 4, who knows? But true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, and agree with the writer opinion, disagree, and not given. There are 3 ways, maybe there are more. When are Air Astana domestic flights restarting? Exactly, 11th of May. Oh, he'd love that. Where is my colleague Adam from? Who's the Taras? Taras. Yay! Maybe he's from Taras. He's from Australia. Where am I from? I'm from England, the UK or England. Okay, we discussed that yesterday. Who is this man? This is Thomas Telford, not Brunei or Brunel. This is Thomas Telford, and the name of the bridge that he designed was the Menai Bridge. Doesn't matter if you didn't spell it, because I didn't write it for you. Let me see if I can write this down for you now. This is the actual spelling, Menai Straits Bridge. If you wrote something like that, that was the correct answer. And I did say this a couple, 2 or 3 times. And where is the Menai Bridge? It's in Wales. This is actually where Adam lives now, in Wales. Okay, maybe they will be generous and give you. If you said UK, that's also correct. UK is correct. Wales is correct, but England is not correct. Wales is not England. And what is the name of a term deliberately used to mislead in a text, in a test? A red herring. Good. Wales? Okay, yeah. Maybe Wales. Yeah, it's a red herring. And what do you need to do to get a free box of chocolates? Yeah, there you go. Someone's written that. You need to get 70% of the answers correct, and you need to come to Tashkent tomorrow. Okay, so if you got 70% in Tashkent, that's fine. And what's the? So I hope none of you are in Tashkent. If you are, then I will need to come and see you tomorrow and give you a box of chocolates. And 10. What's the best place to prepare for exams? Ooh. Whatever you wrote, it's correct. That's your decision. The choice is yours. I'm not going to tell you to go anywhere to study IELTS, but somebody else might be very happy if you wrote a certain word down. So that's the end of the text. That's the end of my 2 days, just looking at a little bit of the reading. So I hope you will continue to improve your IELTS reading skills elsewhere. And yep. Do you have any questions? Anybody? Maybe if anybody has a quick question. Nothing complicated. Anything easy? I'm happy to answer. Okay. Well, thank you. It's a pity I didn't see you, but thank you for your very active engagement through the chat box. And yeah, I miss you, Almaty. Okay, I miss you, Kazakhstan. I miss yeah, I miss Kazakhstan, but I miss Almaty and my mountains. And so goodbye, Aktau, Atrau, Zhezkazgan, Tardikogan, Semi, Taraz, Shymkent, Kizladar, Uralsk, Aktubey, what have I missed? Astana, Semi, what have I missed?
I mean,
yeah.
There are no winners. Again,
sorry?
There are no winners. No one.
No winners. I'm so sorry. Ashmigreal, I miss you. I miss you, Moscow. Okay, I'm very sorry. The boss says there are no winners. Shame on you. Okay, so merci beaucoup. Au revoir. See you. Dizara and everybody else. Goodbye. Ciao.
Goodbye. Thank you.
You're welcome.